I opened my eyes and saw gray sky through the shattered windshield. Around me were sirens and the sharp scent of fuel. Pressure squeezed my chest. I was trapped in my own car. As I blinked, I felt movement beside me. My wife's hand, weak, brushing my shoulder. "You're still here," her voice flat, like a lance through water. Simona. My wife, lying beside me amid twisted metal and flashing lights. I struggled to undo my seatbelt. My heart pounded. Tentatively, I reached across and tried to open her door. She winced as I did. Sirens growing louder. I whispered, my words thick and broken. I called 911. "Hang in there." At the hospital, the antiseptic smell and bright lights surrounded us. They examined me quickly, just bruises, cracked ribs. But they took their time with her. My legs felt weak. A surgeon patted my shoulder and said, "You're stable." But he glanced at her monitor more than at me. My world narrowed to the beeping heart rate and sounds of voices I couldn't fully hear. Then I saw it clutched in her hand, a new phone, glowing softly in the dim room. I moved my head and saw the flood of messages. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Don't forget tonight. I crave you. See you at 8. It was a hidden affair, laid bare on a hospital bed. Reality crashed in harder than the accident. All at once, the room dissolved around me. It didn't hurt, it burned inside. Who was it? "Alex," I confronted her softly. Her voice shook. "It's Alex." She faltered. "It just happened. We talked for a while." He touched me. Rage and grief warred inside me. The hospital corridor was a blur. I asked her, voice exhausted, "Do you want me to leave?" Her whisper cracked, "Don't go." So I stayed. I held her hand. The accident had torn us apart, but this was a different fracture. At dawn, the surgeon gave us clearance. I drove her home, asking nothing. The silence between us grew heavier. She tried to cross the distance once or twice, light touches on my arm, a timid knock on my door at midnight, but I couldn't meet her halfway. Not yet, maybe not ever. I saw her crying in the kitchen one morning. She didn't know I was watching. She held her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking like a small, collapsing bridge. I stood there for what felt like hours, trying to summon something: comfort, rage, love. But I just turned and went back upstairs. I'm staring toward something new, without fear, without secrets. I'll drive straight until I find a road that feels like home again. The days that followed were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Simona tried to act like things could return to normal, but the tension clung to everything. Her voice was softer now, her movements more hesitant, as if guilt weighed down every step. And I moved like a ghost in my own home. I went through the motions. I made coffee, answered emails, folded laundry, but I wasn't really there. My body was in the house. My mind was still in that car, still staring at her messages, still hearing her say his name. Alex. I imagined him more times than I want to admit. Tall, maybe. Confident. The kind of man who knew how to smile just the right way to make someone like her forget promises made in the dark. I hated how easily she had folded into someone else's arms. I hated that my mind wouldn't let go, but most of all, I hated that a part of me still wanted her even after everything. We didn't talk about it. Not really. A few apologies from her, quiet and clumsy. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I felt unseen, like I was fading, and he noticed me. Excuses dressed as honesty. I listened. I nodded. But every word was another drop of acid, and my trust, whatever was left of it, corroded a little more. I started sleeping in the guest room. The silence between us spoke volumes. I started going to cafes alone, therapy sessions after, saying for the first time, "You betrayed me." I realized the betrayal wasn't just a punch, it was a wound we'd carry. I would decide whether to forgive, stay, leave. I chose stay. Not for her, but for me, to reclaim my strength from broken metal and broken trust. Now I sit in our living room, warm tea in hand, writing this. The wreckage is behind me. At therapy, I found my voice again. She was everything, I told my therapist. And now she's a stranger. Not just because she cheated, but because she never gave me a chance to fight for her. She made that choice without me. The therapist nodded. And what do you want now? That question haunted me. What did I want? I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I didn't even want her to beg me to stay. I just wanted peace. I wanted to remember who I was before betrayal sank its teeth into my chest. Before the accident. Before Alex. Before I became someone who flinched at his wife's touch. Eventually, I told her the truth. I told her I couldn't do it. I couldn't unknow what I now knew. I couldn't look at her without seeing the shadows of someone else's fingerprints. I think we broke that night, I said. And we've been pretending ever since, she nodded. She didn't fight me on it. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she didn't cry out. Maybe she knew too. Maybe she had been waiting for me to admit it so she wouldn't have to be the one to let go first. We agreed on space. Then we agreed on separation. Then, eventually, divorce. I moved into a small apartment not far from where we used to live. It's quiet. Lonely, sometimes. But also clean in a way my heart hasn't felt in a long time. I wake up in a bed that's mine. I brew my own coffee. I walk to the park and watch the trees move like they know something I don't. I started running. Rebuilding. Sometimes, she sends a text. A memory, a check-in, a photo of the dog we shared. I respond, when I can. Sometimes I even smile. But I don't open old doors anymore. I've learned that some chapters are meant to close without a sequel. And yet, I don't hate her. That surprises people. They want to hear about rage, about broken plates and slammed doors. But I've let that go. Hate is still a way of holding on, and I don't want to hold on anymore. She made a mistake. A brutal, unforgettable one. But I made choices too. I let things slide. I ignored the distance growing between us. I assumed love would carry us through anything. I was wrong. The truth I learned in that wreckage wasn't just about her. It was about me. About how fragile love really is. About how easily it can be replaced. And how, even in our darkest moments, we still have the power to choose who we become after the breaking. So I chose healing. I chose to be alone rather than feel alone with someone else. I chose to forgive her in silence, so I could finally speak to myself with honesty. Maybe that's what love is, in the end, not just clinging to someone when it's good, but knowing when to let go when it's not. And maybe the most honest thing I've ever done is walk away not from her, but from the version of myself that needed her more than I needed peace. It's been 3 years. Sometimes it feels like it's only been weeks. Other days, like it happened in another lifetime entirely. Time has a strange way of folding in on itself when you're healing, when every scar has its own calendar. I don't think about Simona every day anymore. But she still visits me in memories. Not the betrayal, not anymore, but the good things. Her laugh when she was half asleep. The way she used to hum in the shower without realizing. The quiet way she touched the side of my face when she needed comfort. Those pieces of her still live somewhere inside me, but they no longer hurt. They're soft now. Faded like old photographs. Sometimes, I wonder where she is. If she's still with him. If she ever found what she was looking for. If she wakes up beside someone who knows everything and still chooses her. I hope she does. I hope she's okay. I no longer wish pain on her, I just wish distance. I never reached out again. She stopped messaging after a while too. That was mercy. Some stories don't need epilogues. As for me, I kept going. I stayed in that little apartment for a year before I finally bought a small house out by the lake. It's quiet out here. I wake up to birds, not traffic. I write. I take long walks. I read books I used to say I didn't have time for. I cook for myself for real meals, not frozen boxes and pity pizza. I even started learning how to play the piano. Badly, but that's okay. I met someone, eventually. Her name's Elise. She's nothing like Simona. Not better, just different. Softer in some ways, stronger in others. She knows I've been hurt. I told her early on, because I didn't want to start with lies or silences. She didn't flinch when I said my ex-wife cheated. She just listened. She held space for my pain without trying to fix it. With Elise, I've learned what it means to be seen, really seen, without performance. I've learned to speak up when I feel small, to ask for what I need instead of hoping it's guessed. I've learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means loving again without bleeding on the innocent. We don't talk about the future much, not yet. We're still learning each other's shapes, moods, histories. But I feel something steady with her, something that doesn't rely on illusions. I'm not chasing validation anymore. I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. Some nights, I sit on my porch with a cup of tea, watching the light fade across the water. The stillness is not lonely anymore. It's sacred. A reminder that peace doesn't always come after justice, sometimes it comes after surrender. Not giving up, but giving into the truth, that we survive things not because we're unbreakable, but because we learn how to live with the cracks. The man who crawled out of that car wreck wasn't whole. But he's real now, honest. Quiet in the best ways. And he knows something he didn't know back then: love is not enough if it comes without respect. Trust is not automatic. And forgiveness isn't weakness, it's choosing not to carry a weight that was never ours in the first place. If I could speak to that broken version of me, the one holding her phone in the hospital, numb and bleeding and betrayed, I'd tell him this: you're going to lose things you thought you couldn't live without. But you're not going to die. You're going to shed versions of yourself you didn't even realize were killing you. You'll miss her. You'll scream. You'll ache. But you will walk again. You'll learn your own name. And one day, without warning, you'll laugh at something simple, and it won't feel stolen. It will be yours. Sometimes Elise finds me staring at nothing, just watching the light filter through the trees, or listening to the creak of the old wooden dock stretching over the lake. She never interrupts. She just joins me. Sometimes with a hand on my shoulder, sometimes with silence. She understands that not all quiet moments need to be filled. One evening, she asked, "Do you ever miss her?" I didn't lie. Sometimes, I said. Not the version that hurt me, but the version I thought I had. I missed the idea of her more than the reality. Elise nodded, as if she'd already guessed. She never punishes me for my honesty, and that's something I never had before. I used to think love was about blending into someone else, being everything for them, shrinking the ugly parts of myself until I became palatable. But Elise taught me that love isn't performance. It's presence. She sees all of me, even the cracks, and doesn't flinch. We never rushed things. There were no grand declarations, no fireworks. Just slow Sundays, long walks, shared coffee, gentle laughter. I didn't even realize I had fallen in love until I caught myself watching her brush her hair and thought, I could do this forever. I haven't told her that yet. Not in those words. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't have to. The truth is, I no longer live for drama, or adrenaline, or chaos disguised as passion. I used to think love had to hurt to be real. Now, I know better. Love doesn't set fire to your world, it builds you a home inside it. Every now and then, I still pass by the road where the accident happened. It's just a curve like any other now. The dented guardrail has been repaired. No signs, no scars, no trace of what happened that night. But I remember. I remember the cold metal, the broken glass, the beep of monitors, the sting of betrayal. I remember who I was and who I became. That place marked the death of one life and the beginning of another. And every time I drive past it, I whisper a silent thank you. Not to her. To myself. For surviving. For not becoming bitter. For choosing to heal when it would have been easier to harden. I've started writing again. Not just in journals, but real writing, the stories, essays, fragments of memory. Elise encourages me. She says I have something worth saying. Maybe she's right. Maybe pain makes poets of us all. Or maybe healing does. The last time I saw Simona, really saw her, was at the courthouse, finalizing our divorce. We didn't say much. A few polite words, forced smiles. She looked different, tired. Smaller somehow. I wondered, just briefly, if she still thought of me. If she ever regretted it. But then the clerk called my name, and I stepped forward and signed the last document with a steady hand. She said goodbye with a whisper. I said nothing. Not out of cruelty, but closure. We had said everything we needed to. Anything more would have only reopened what we both had worked to close. Now, life feels simpler, quieter, deeper. There's no noise in my heart anymore. Just the steady rhythm of healing, of days earned, of love that doesn't ask me to bleed for it. Sometimes I think about that night as a gift in disguise. It broke everything open. It forced me to confront the lie I was living, the comfort of denial, the illusion of connection. It destroyed the version of love I thought I needed, and in doing so, gave me the chance to discover the love I deserved. I don't believe everything happens for a reason. But I do believe we can find meaning in what happens. Even in pain. Especially in pain. So now, every night before bed, I do something small. I place my phone face down. I look out the window for a minute. I remind myself of one good thing that happened that day, a smile, a joke, a moment of ease. I hold it like a stone in my palm, solid, real. Proof that I'm here, alive, healing, whole. And then, I let go. Because I no longer carry ghosts. Only gratitude. This morning, I found a letter tucked beneath my front door. No name on the envelope, just my first initial in familiar handwriting. My breath caught for a second, not out of fear, but recognition. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. But I did anyway. Her words were short. Not dramatic. Not begging. Just real. I don't know if this will reach you kindly, or if it even should. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything. You didn't deserve what I did. I hope you've found peace. I think you have. Yes. I sat there with the letter in my hand for a long time. There was no bitterness. No sadness. Just a strange, unexpected warmth, the kind that comes from knowing the past no longer has its claws in you. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger. What I felt, more than anything, was gratitude. Not for her, but for myself. For the version of me that didn't let that letter break me open again. For the version of me that could read it, smile softly, and tuck it away without needing to respond. Elise found me an hour later, sitting on the back steps with my coffee. She sat beside me, thigh brushing mine, and looked at the paper still in my hand. She didn't ask. I handed it to her anyway. She read it in silence, then gave it back. You okay? She asked. I am, I said. And I meant it. There's something beautiful about being able to face your ghosts without trembling. To see the wreckage of what once was and feel no need to pick up the pieces. To know that some stories were never meant to end with fireworks, only peace. Later that day, we drove into town. Elise hummed along with the radio, and I caught myself staring at her hand resting on the gear shift. I remembered when that simple intimacy, being close to someone again, felt impossible. Now it just felt right. At the farmer's market, we picked out tomatoes and basil for pasta later. A little girl selling wildflowers offered me a bundle of violets. I handed them to Elise, and she tucked one behind her ear, laughing. I smiled without effort. Just ease. There was a time I thought I'd never feel this again. Connection. Safety. Lightness. There was a time I thought I'd never trust again. But here I am. Not in some fairy tale. Not in a storybook romance. Just in real life. Imperfect, ordinary, beautiful. I know life will change again. Nothing stays still forever. But I'm not afraid of change anymore. I've learned how to lose and still remain whole. I've learned how to love without losing myself in the process. I've learned that healing is not linear, but it is possible, if you let it happen on its own terms. And so, if you're where I was, broken, betrayed, sitting in the dark wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. I want you to know this: you will. It won't happen quickly. It won't happen cleanly. But it will happen. One choice at a time. One morning at a time. One breath at a time. Until one day, you wake up, look around, and realize, this is mine. This peace, this life, this quiet joy hits mine now. And no one can take it from you again. It's strange how the heart remembers what the mind has long filed away. A certain smell in the air of summer rain on warm concrete, and I'll be back there, just for a moment. The way her voice rose when she was excited. The color of her nail polish the day we signed the lease on our old apartment. The way our laughter once filled a room without effort. But memory doesn't hurt like it used to. Now, it just passes through me, like a warm breeze in an empty hallway. The difference is that I no longer chase it down. I let it pass. Grief isn't something you conquer. It's something you befriend. Like an old scar you no longer wince at when you catch your reflection. Like a song you once avoided that now plays and simply fades. The truth is, healing isn't about being untouched. It's about being touched and still choosing to stay open. It's about looking at what broke you and saying, you don't define me anymore. And so, life goes on. Elise and I eventually moved into a new place a little farther from town, closer to the trees. A garden out back, a hammock between two old oaks, a kitchen that smells like garlic and red wine on Sundays. It's not loud love. It's not dramatic. It's not marked by highs and lows. It's steady. And I've learned to love the steadiness. To trust the calm. She paints, I write. Sometimes we do nothing at all. But even the nothing feels full now. We still fight, like all couples do. But it's different. We argue with intention, not destruction. We both know what it means to be wounded and what it means to be careful with someone else's heart. I never expected a second beginning. And I certainly didn't expect to find joy again so quietly. But that's how it arrived. Not with fireworks, but with softness. A cup of coffee on a rainy morning. Fingers grazing mine as we pass in the hallway. The way she waits, not to be right but to understand. And the way she holds space for me, even now, when I fall quiet without warning, when old memories rise like mist. She never asked me to explain. She never tries to compete with ghosts. She simply stays. That's love, I think. Not being someone's everything, but being someone's safe thing. I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. Maybe that's the point. But I know that whatever it brings, I'll face it whole. Not because I was never broken, but because I was, and I healed anyway. Because I chose to stay soft when bitterness beckoned. Because I chose peace over pride. Because I let go of what I once clung to and found something even better in return. And maybe, just maybe, the wreckage wasn't the end of me. Maybe it was the beginning of a better version, of a fuller life, of a deeper love. And maybe that's the story I'll carry forward now, not the one about betrayal, or pain, or loss, but the one where I chose myself, and finally, beautifully, found my way home.